Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly amass millions of dollars, while others toil their entire lives and still barely manage to pay their monthly bills? Sounds unfair, doesn't it? But what if I told you that effort isn't the secret, that overworking might be your biggest obstacle? Illogical? Contradictory? Yes, yet it's precisely this provocative idea that expands your perception to the truth. Wealth isn't a result of hours toiled, but rather of how you program your mind. Have you noticed how, even when you know what you should do, you keep repeating the same financial mistakes? It's as if some hidden force keeps you stuck in the same place. You know you should save, organize, invest better, maybe even start something new, but day after day, you make the exact same choices, as if trapped by a script written long before you were born. The truth is, this isn't about your intelligence or aptitude, but something far more intimate, the blueprints that govern your existence. These blueprints are like a secret program implanted in your subconscious, directing more than 90% of your decisions without you even realizing it. They are deep-seated beliefs, reinforced for years, inherited from your family, school, and the culture in which you were raised. Perhaps you've heard maxims like, money doesn't grow on trees, only heirs get rich, or, you have to work until you drop. Without realizing it, these phrases became silent rules that guide your financial behavior. That's why, even when you wish to prosper, a part of you insists on sabotaging every attempt at change. I lived this reality myself. For a long period, my annual income was only $4,000, and I also carried a debt of $6,000. It was a perpetual cycle of overdue bills, disappointments, and the perception that it would never be enough. And the bitterest part was that I knew I needed to change, but I couldn't. Have you ever felt something similar? That knot in your stomach at the end of the month, when you realize all your hard work for the period has vanished into bills, debts, and interest? Have you ever questioned how less educated people, who seem less qualified, enjoy more abundance, while you, who put in so much effort, remain tied down? It's not a matter of deserving it, but of resonance. Contemporary studies in psychology reveal that the emotional connection to finances is more crucial for economic health than formal education. Thousands of highly educated individuals are buried in debt, while others, who haven't even finished school, thrive because they possess a distinct mental configuration. The issue isn't the amount of knowledge one has, but rather what one believes is achievable for oneself. I remember nights when insomnia haunted me, worried about the pile of bills on the table. I told myself I needed to work longer, but deep down, every effort seemed to push me into an even deeper abyss. Until I realized that the problem wasn't my job, but the programming of my mind. The more I tuned into scarcity, the more scarcity I attracted. It's like trying to tune a radio to a station that doesn't play the desired melody. You can spin the dial all day, but on the wrong frequency, the sound won't change. The big mistake is believing your financial situation will change simply by deciding to give it one more try. How many times have you started a savings plan, a new training course, an additional venture, and left it unfinished? You didn't give up due to lack of desire, but because your subconscious mind told you that wasn't for your reality. Your psyche was conditioned to return to a state of familiarity, even if that familiarity meant persistent indebtedness. Resistance to change is the biggest block. How many times have you caught yourself thinking, what if I lose everything? What if it doesn't work? What if my current situation gets worse? These thoughts aren't your intuition, they are just echoes of old beliefs trying to limit you. That's exactly where the invisible cage lies. Life doesn't transform from the outside in, but from the inside out. As long as your mental patterns aren't rewritten, the narrative remains the same, no matter how many times you try to restart. The question you need to ask yourself isn't, what should I do to make more money, but rather, what beliefs have been preventing me from accepting that I deserve prosperity? This is the foundation. Because it's useless to learn new financial strategies if, deep down, you still feel you're not capable, you don't deserve it, or that it's not for you. And by carrying that impression, the world merely reflects more of the same experiences. The reality is that you are not alone. Millions of people live this way, trapped in jobs they don't love, afraid of losing the little they have, dreading the end of the month, and believing it's just fate. But destiny is shaped by the mind. If you continue to resonate with scarcity, that will be your truth. Now, if you decide to reconfigure your beliefs, to expand your mind to abundance, the situation changes radically. And perhaps at this moment you are experiencing an inner conflict, as if one part of you embraces this possibility and another dismisses it as an illusion. This confrontation is common, it is the intrinsic opposition of old patterns. But if you have already noticed that, despite all your effort, nothing has changed so far, then you also understand that continuing on the same path won't lead you to different outcomes. The first step is to admit, it's not a lack of intellect, it's not the nation's economic climate, it's not bad luck. It's your internal configuration. And if it can be assimilated, it can also be altered. The impediment lies within you, but so does the solution. Nothing in my life changed until the day I decided to train my mind with repetition and emotion. It was then that I understood that the subconscious doesn't obey logic, it responds to whatever is repeated enough to become ingrained. I started listening, every day, to my mentor's audio recordings. In the car, at home, while traveling, on the plane, before bed. It reached a point where my brain no longer questioned, no longer opposed, but simply absorbed those words as a new reality. At first, the idea of earning $25,000 a year seemed absurd, intangible for someone who barely escaped debt. But, after much repetition, that figure ceased to be a distant dream and became commonplace, almost inevitable. What happened next was exactly that, my income grew. Soon, those $25,000 became $100,000, and then reached $1 million. Not because I discovered some secret business method, but because my subconscious was ready to embrace those amounts, it had already understood that they were part of my life. And this is the central point, you never change through reason alone. How many times have you tried to persuade yourself with logical justifications that you should save, invest, change careers, but internally, you reverted to the same old habits? This happens because logic is frail compared to the power of emotions etched into the subconscious. Only repetition, imbued with emotion, forges new and deep connections. Consider how we learn to drive. Initially, every detail requires conscious focus, rear-view mirror, gear shift, steering wheel, pedals. But after enough repetition, you get in the car and drive it almost without thinking. The subconscious takes over. With finances, it's the same. As long as you don't program your subconscious to believe that acquiring, retaining, and expanding wealth is natural, you'll continue to act like someone struggling to survive, even though you know you could prosper. I myself recall nights when I would write on a note, "I am so happy and grateful now that I earn $25,000 a year." At first, I didn't believe a word of it. But my mentor believed. And I decided to lean on his belief until mine grew strong enough. This brief exercise completely changed my life, because repetition with feeling forges a new identity. And when your identity changes, your results change with it. Many declare that they would like to attract more wealth, but they insist on phrases like, "I never get lucky, money never stays with me, it's too complicated." They don't realize that, by repeating such statements, they are subconsciously convincing themselves of their truth. And the subconscious, which doesn't distinguish reality from repetition, simply registers and materializes it. Have you noticed how those who constantly talk about debt invariably find themselves in debt? It's not coincidence, it's a process of programming. Now, imagine if you started repeating, every day, a new belief, "Money reaches me through expected and unexpected paths." Imagine listening to this in your own recorded voice, every day, dozens of times. At first, it might seem unusual, but with persistence, the subconscious gradually assimilates it. Once accepted, your perception changes. You begin to discern opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. You make decisions that once instilled fear. You act like someone already prosperous, and the external environment reacts to this new state. Modern studies in neuroscience demonstrate brain plasticity, showing that it restructures itself according to patterns of repetition. For this reason, constant practice changes not only your thoughts but also your neural structure. You literally mold new connections that support new behaviors. If scarcity is reiterated, pathways of privation are forged. If abundance is repeated, pathways of abundance are created. This is science, not magic. I understood that everything begins with a simple choice: what do you choose to nurture daily? Because, whether you want to or not, you are already reconditioning yourself. Every recurring thought, every spoken word, every emotion constantly revisited serves as a command to your mind. And your mind unfailingly complies. The question is, are you feeding the program that keeps you trapped, or the one that will unleash your true potential? It was only by taking control of this very mechanism that the previously unattainable began to feel natural. What was once a mere distant yearning transformed into a tangible outcome. This wasn't due to an automatic shift in external reality, but rather a profound change that first occurred within me. And when such a transformation manifests, everything else, without fail, falls into perfect harmony. There's a principle most people overlook when attracting wealth: the universe abhors a vacuum. Whenever there's an empty space, something invariably comes to fill it. I experienced this firsthand in a truly tangible way. I recall a symposium where I spoke about the importance of fostering receptivity for the new, of not clinging to what no longer serves us. Upon returning home, I found my living room entirely empty. Table, chairs, sofa, everything had been removed. I asked what had happened, and the reply was given quite naturally: "You said we needed to make space for the new, so we took out what no longer made sense." In that moment, I felt a jolt of shock, but I soon understood the profound lesson. Before long, superior furniture arrived, more aesthetically pleasing and better suited to the space. It was living proof that by letting go of the obsolete, the unprecedented inevitably emerges. What I observe most often are people attempting to cling to everything out of fear of loss. They hold on to jobs they despise, relationships that have lost their spark, clothes unworn for years, and items that merely gather dust. And yet they wonder why they don't advance. How can you expect abundance to flow if you don't create room for it? Imagine trying to fill a container already overflowing with murky liquid. No matter how much crystal clear water you pour in, it will find no space. This is precisely how it works with your financial and emotional life. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll keep this job until I find something better"? And then 5 years passed, 10 years, 20 years, and you're still in the same place. How often have you promised that, with more resources, you would finally invest in yourself, but never took that step? This mindset is restrictive. It's as if you're communicating to the universe, "I'm content with this, I can wait." And life validates your perspective, because the frequency you radiate isn't one of yearning, but of complacency. Detachment is frightening, I acknowledge that. Saying no to something commonplace can trigger anxieties because there's no guarantee of what will follow. Yet, that is precisely where the strength lies. Absence attracts, it summons the new to manifest. By ridding yourself of what no longer serves, you send a clear message: "I am ready for the next stage." And that next stage invariably appears. Physics clarifies this concept simply: the universe does not tolerate a vacuum. If an open space exists, something will emerge to fill it. Consider the compartments within your home. An empty drawer will soon be occupied by newly acquired items. A free shelf readily welcomes books, documents, or mementos. And an identical phenomenon occurs in your financial and emotional realms. When stagnant energy is released, innovative concepts, opportunities, and individuals find their way in. The most intriguing aspect is that, often, what arrives is far superior to what you were trying so hard to hold on to. It's the surprising initiative that emerges when you finally leave that occupation that was draining your vitality. It's the prospect of a partnership that arises after the conclusion of a commercial venture that wasn't flourishing. It's the serenity that comes when you choose to decline commitments that merely occupied your time without fostering growth. I distinctly recall an occasion when I was compelled to make a difficult choice, to abandon a stable position and venture into the unknown. The apprehension was real, but it was also an indication of my progress. The void I created was promptly filled with possibilities I never would have perceived had I remained tethered to what already existed. It is this very absence, which many reject, that paves the way to abundance. The challenge is simple, yet potent: select one area of your life and perform a cleansing. This could be a drawer, a wardrobe, your schedule, or even an interpersonal connection that no longer serves a purpose. Rid yourself of what doesn't reflect the life you aspire to live. This goes beyond mere tidying, it's an explicit declaration of intent. By creating space, you are not just discarding items, but sending the universe a clear invitation: I am worthy of the best, and I am ready to welcome it. Abundance does not manifest in environments saturated with fear, possessions, obligations, and people who no longer contribute to your growth. It demands dynamism, fluidity. And when you have the courage to release what has served its purpose, you create the ideal conditions for the new and the best to find you. It is in this context that you realize letting go is not deprivation, but rather preparation. It is making room for life to grant you what was always meant for you, but couldn't enter as long as you insisted on holding on to what was no longer beneficial. Money is not merely paper currency or digits in an account, it is energy in constant motion, continuously responding to the vibration you project. Einstein famously asserted that everything is energy, and this encompasses your feelings, thoughts, and most deeply held beliefs. At the outset of my journey, my attention was fixated on debts. Each time I assessed my situation, my mind dwelt on what was scarce, on what I lacked. And the outcome was entirely predictable: greater scarcity, more indebtedness, more disappointment. The cosmos simply mirrored the frequency I was radiating. It was then that I decided to realign my focus. I began a playful interaction with numbers, quite literally. I used a calculator and started to envision what it would be like to earn $10,000 monthly, $100,000 annually, and $1 million over a period of 5 years. Initially, it felt like a whimsical fantasy, but as time went on, these amounts ceased to be intimidating and began to sound organic and recognizable. And this is precisely where the core truth lies: the subconscious mind needs to become accustomed to abundance before it can materialize. As long as you perceive large sums as something separate, something unattainable, your body reacts with fear, stress, and anxiety. However, once these numbers become familiar within your cognition, you begin to discern opportunities that have always been around you, yet previously went unnoticed. It's comparable to changing a radio station. You don't create the melody, you simply tune into the broadcast that is already in the air. Studies in behavioral psychology confirm that individuals who approach financial matters with optimism and confidence tend to make sounder monetary choices and recover more quickly from crises. This happens because their minds, by focusing on fluidity rather than deprivation, stimulate brain regions associated with creativity and problem solving. When you discuss finances with ease, believing they represent a source of support, you position yourself in a state of command. Conversely, when the narrative constantly revolves around debts, scarcity, and adversity, you intensify the frequency of lack, and your subconscious merely seeks evidence to corroborate that perception. I personally experienced this metamorphosis in a profound way. After accustoming my mind to figures that once intimidated me, I began to notice unexpected requests, ventures that seemed to emerge out of nowhere, and individuals who presented me with valuable ideas. And this wasn't luck. It was solely the inherent reaction of energy to the renewed frequency I was radiating. When you believe financial resources are limited, you live in apprehension about how you will meet payments at the end of the month. However, when you begin to believe they are abundant, your behavior transforms. You start asking questions like, how can I make my capital work for me? And not just, how will I survive until my next paycheck? This simple cognitive shift unlocks pathways that previously appeared obstructed. Ask yourself, how do you speak about money in your daily life? Do you express yourself with tranquility, conviction, and appreciation, or with fear, anxiety, and resentment? The way you answer this question reveals precisely the vibration you propagate. And the cosmos, impartial as it has always proven to be, simply returns what you externalize. If you desire abundance, you must first resonate with abundance. This means familiarizing yourself with the idea that acquiring more is inherent, that you are worthy of progress, and that financial resources need not be a perpetual struggle, but rather an uninterrupted flow. As you alter this frequency, you will increasingly realize that opportunities have always been present, merely awaiting your connection to the appropriate vibrational band. And when that alignment occurs, the amounts that previously seemed unattainable cease to be a distant goal and become integrated into your daily experience. Financial capital begins to flow spontaneously, not because the world has transformed, but because you have modified the energy you radiate. There will be nothing more potent than a genuine aspiration, one that springs from the depths of your being and not merely from the rational sphere. I distinctly recall a period in my life when I found myself isolated, without companions, devoid of significant possessions, holding on to just one concept that, to many, seemed unattainable, to globally disseminate the knowledge that had reshaped my journey. It was 1973, and the vision I nurtured often appeared preposterous even to me, yet I cherished it as a valuable legacy. Every single dawn, I held this pulsing vision deep inside me, feeding it with all my vitality, conviction, and emotion. Slowly but surely, people started to draw closer, as if drawn in by that very same resonance. First came unexpected collaborators, then essential allies who helped amplify the endeavor, until that inspiration, which had been just a single spark, blossomed into a worldwide movement. Such is the power of fervent aspiration. It supports you when fear tries to paralyze you, when criticism surfaces, when everything around you seems to suggest that you will not succeed. It is this invisible force that transforms the unattainable into tangible reality. Just look at remarkable examples from history. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. What drove him forward? It was not rationality, nor external assurances. It was the unwavering yearning to illuminate the world, to see his purpose materialized, at any cost. Fervent aspiration is not merely about wanting something, it is about living as if it were absolutely essential. It is to feel deep within your core that it is not just a fantasy, but a fundamental necessity. Have you ever experienced a craving so intense that your very existence seemed meaningless without it? It is this kind of yearning that moves mountains, that forges paths where before there were only barriers, that attracts the right people, the appropriate resources, and the pertinent opportunities. And the most captivating aspect is that the universe responds according to the strength of this resonance. When you desire something superficially, without genuine feeling, life reciprocates with shallowness. However, when the longing is deeply rooted, imbued with conviction and proactivity, it takes on an attractive quality. That is precisely how I have watched countless individuals in my life transform their existence, when they stopped merely wishing and began to feel, act, and live as if it were already a reality. Scientific research equally supports this assertion. Studies demonstrate that when you imagine a goal with deep emotional intensity, your brain's cortex activates the same regions as if you were already experiencing that event. This behavior generates an intrinsic state of certainty, and from that point forward, your actions become guided by this conviction. That is why we frequently hear stories of individuals who seemed destined for failure, yet, through the power of yearning, overcame inconceivable obstacles and achieved remarkable feats. I myself have witnessed how true this manifests. In moments when everything seemed ambiguous, it was fervent aspiration that kept me moving forward. And slowly, what previously seemed distant began to take shape before my eyes. For when the yearning is authentic, it becomes a powerful propellant. It does not allow you to give up, even when logic screams that there is no solution. It propels you forward, transforming fear into courage, hesitation into tenacity, and obstacles into stepping stones. Now consider, what is that yearning you hold deep inside, but that perhaps you have neglected because it seemed excessively grand or unattainable? If it still pulsates in your core, it is because it is crying out to be brought to life. This aspiration was not placed within you randomly, it constitutes a calling. And when you embrace it with all your being, without reservations, you connect to the same power that guided Edison, that led countless successful individuals, and that guided me as well. It is this force that transforms pipe dreams into tangible realities. The secret lies not just in desiring, but in feeling as if you already possess it. That is the distinction between merely wishing for something and truly manifesting it into your life. When I close my eyes and visualize myself experiencing the life I yearn for, the home I always envisioned, time freedom, the continuous flow of financial resources, I do not consider this a pipe dream. I embody this state as if it were my current reality. I feel the profound reality of this experience throughout my being. I allow every detail to be experienced in that moment. And by repeating this practice daily, my resonance transforms, and it is inevitable that the environment around me begins to align with this newly established inner blueprint. Yet, none of this materializes without unwavering resolve. I needed to reach a point where I declared to myself, I will never again live below my potential. This resolution served as a decisive turning point. As long as I allowed myself to be content with less, that is precisely what I received. Only when I stated, with absolute clarity, that I would no longer accept scraps, did I begin to create space for true abundance. And here is the subtle point that few recognize: life does not react to what you say, but rather to what you emanate. If hesitation, fear, or uncertainty still linger deep within you, that is what will be mirrored back. I have observed countless individuals spend their entire lives waiting for something external to manifest before they can transform: a new job, a career advancement, a stroke of luck. However, what truly transforms everything is intrinsic determination, for it immediately changes the way you act, how you express yourself, and how you position yourself. When you make a firm decision, you begin to live as if you already possess what you desire. Your choices change, your attitude shifts, your interactions transform. It is as if you begin to occupy a distinct position in the world's landscape. It was precisely that way with me. When I decided to think and act as a prosperous individual, even without seeing the funds in my bank account, my reality began to respond. I discerned opportunities that had previously been imperceptible. I met individuals who guided me along new paths. Ideas that seemed improbable began to make sense. The secret was not in struggling harder, but in aligning my mindset with what I aspired to experience. And that is why, if this message resonates with you, I want you to take one action right now: hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This simple act is not merely a tap, it is a symbolic act of determination. It is you affirming to your own self, I choose this path, I select this renewed alignment, I decide to no longer live below my full capacity. This commitment to yourself constitutes the inaugural step for transformation to begin manifesting. Remember, life never waits for perfection to change, it changes when you decide. You can continue carrying the old patterns, or you can choose to resonate in alignment with the life you truly yearn for. The choice is yours, it always has been. And the sooner you make up your mind, the sooner you will realize that what seemed distant had been waiting for you all along. With each new understanding, you create space to see opportunities that had always surrounded you, but which only now become evident. And if this content resonated with you, please share it with a special someone who might benefit from this message. Perhaps that person is waiting precisely for these words to take the next step in their life's journey. Immense gratitude for your presence here with me, and I will be waiting for you in the next video, where we will continue side by side on this odyssey of growth and fulfillment.